Path Radio, your number one online Islamic talk station.
In a world overrun by neocon warmongers, and with the mass media in the pockets of the cabal elite, there remains one bastion of truth amidst the confusion. One beacon of light shining through the murky fog of spin and Islamophobic propaganda. That's right, it's the MP Radio Security Council, the final frontier in the fight for freedom and fairness. I give you the Security Council.
أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد عن خطى الإيمان دربنا درب قويم دربنا درب قويم بالهدى القرآني أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد عن خطى الإيمان دربنا درب قويم دربنا درب قويم بالهدى القرآني سائر في طريق الحق يا جند الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very warm welcome from the Security Council. That's right, this is the Security Council, and I'm your host for tonight. Good luck, Django, Jonathan, and with me, permanent members of the Security Council, Robert the Beast Mugabe, and of course, on my right, sitting at the top of the Colosseum, Desmond, Two Guns, Two.
Bruv, you cannot call yourself, good luck, Django, Jonathan, whatever you want to call yourself, yeah.
People call me that.
You call yourself that, mate, yeah.
I do like your cowboy hat.
You love the cowboy hat. That's one of my trademark signature styles that I've been going for. A lot of people have emulated this
Trying to get that
this look. That's right. I mean, Crocodile Dundee. I'd say.
Or was it Chef?
That needs a long jacket, a leather jacket.
You got both.
Depends on the time of the season, you see. Anyways, we have a very quick show tonight. We're going to go for a tight half an hour. We always say this. Sometimes we exceed that parameter, but we'll do our best to keep it.
Just say 10 minutes
tight ship.
and then we'll probably finish
In about 1 hour's time, yeah.
Let's see how the discussion flows. Is this the Security Council? It's very, very flexible. It's not communism here, you know what I mean? It's not so regimental. We like to keep things going according to whatever I say, basically, at the end of the day. So you guys can stop
Ahmed,
it.
you didn't introduce our producer. He's the one who's
Brother Ubaid, Mr. Producer, of course. Mr. Producer is one of the most radio shy characters. It's an ironic place for him to be doing his work. But Mr. Producer, assalamu alaikum to you. Where is your microphone, Mr. Producer? You don't need a microphone. Okay. No problem, inshallah. I'm sure I'll pass it on to you. You always have something valuable to add to our program. Django of the Week, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who've tuned in or listening to us maybe later on YouTube. Django of the Week, we normally do this every show. And Django of the Week is basically our concept or idea behind what we call the Hall of Shame. The person who we appoint, with your help, of course, with your opinion, with your point is, we decide who is a disgrace to the human race. So Django of the Week, of past and historic Djangos of the Week. This is Django without the D. All right, so this is like Jango. Excuse the fireworks. Sorry, did I say fireworks? We are, of course, heading a huge war offensive at the moment. It's a joint African operation against some other rebel forces. So if there's any bombardment outside that you're listening to, we'll do our best to soundproof the studio a little bit more. Now, keep it. That's just ambience. It's part of the Security Council ambience. This is, if it weren't happening for real, we'd have played a soundtrack anyway.
Why do you think this is called the Security Council?
That's right. So we come out firing on all cylinders, brothers and sisters. So throw us in your idea for who you think should be Django of this week. And we'll give you some ideas too. We'll always have our own suggestion.
Incoming.
Okay, and I think some of our agendas for tonight, we'll give that away. Before I do, what's the number again, Mr. Producer? 07477 080-248. That's 07477 080-248. Alternatively, you can find us on Twitter. That's at Middle Path Radio, one word. Anyway, permanent members, can you guys stop eating those drumsticks and relax a little bit, drinking those halal drinks, I'm assuming.
Halal and tayyibin, yeah.
Astaghfirullah al-azim. Take that, what's it called? Anyways, you guys got any plans? I've got 3 agendas that I want to talk about tonight.
So, what are your 3 agendas?
Alright, so to go straight away, I would say a big, what should I say, agenda for us today is actually good news and a cause for celebration. Of course, all of Africa.
Good luck.
And I think
good luck. Jonathan's got good news.
Good news, always. When good. I'm just gonna say that we're gonna talk about Brother Shaker Aamer and his release from Guantanamo Bay. Alhamdulillah. Like I said, this is a cause for celebration. And what happened to the fireworks when I needed them? For crying out loud. Anyway, Desmond, send out the men. We need more ammo, reinforcements required. So yeah, we'll definitely be welcoming Brother Shaker back to the UK, back home, where he belongs, where he should never have been removed from or denied access to. And that's one of the agendas for tonight. We'll be talking just generally about torture and just Guantanamo Bay at large. We'll also be hoping to cover another interesting piece of news. Many of you may have heard of a Turkish gentleman who was, up till today, I did not know that he was a former senior member of Al-Muhajirun.
He's Turkish?
Yeah, he's Turkish.
I thought you were talking about Erdogan for a second.
I didn't know he was Turkish.
I believe he's originally Turkish. His name, although currently known as Adam Dean, he had another name called something Hakan, Hakan. And
sorry, what was that?
Not Haqqani, no, but Hakan.
Hadouken.
So this gentleman has gone over to the dark side and sold his soul to the devil himself.
Bedin.
In fact, the devil is quite ashamed because even the devil is outdone by this group
Devilry.
of ghouls, and we are referring to the defection of Adam Dean. What?
That's
this is
right.
not the wrong cue for celebrating. Come on, what's the matter with
celebration? It's just
hold fire,
No,
cease fire.
They got upset, mate. They got upset.
Oh, they got upset about Adam Dean defecting to Quilliam Foundation.
There you go.
I hope they're only firing into the sky. What were your orders, Desmond?
Fire at will.
Okay, so I mean, celebrations are over, and this should be a cause for commiseration. Adam Dean has gone over to the dark side. I mean, he was always on that side, in my opinion, but we'll get into that. We'll get stuck into that properly when we open that agenda. The third one I wanted to talk about is actually a brilliant article that I came across on Islam 21C, written by a Kurdish brother. He has a name that I don't want to pronounce incorrectly. His name is Amanj Aziz, and he has a bachelor's in political science, and he's an anti-racism activist, actually based in Sweden. Okay, so he's written this article on Islam 21C, and and it's called Islamophobia is racism, with the emphasis on the word is. Islamophobia is racism. A very well-researched piece, I have to say. Very lengthy. We won't go through everything. I've just highlighted, literally. I've took a highlighter, electronic one, and just pasted a couple of paragraphs there. Just one paragraph, as you can see, Desmond. Okay? So, some profound, points he's made in that article, and I think it's important and high time Muslims become more eloquent when it comes to speaking about racism and Islamophobia hand in hand. Any other agendas you gentlemen want to add?
Well, there's so much that's happened we could talk about. We could talk about what's happening in Turkey with Erdogan.
Yes.
And the AKP party.
Good point, Desmond.
You can also talk about...
You know a lot more about that.
It's been a while since we've had a show, so even the changes that we had here in terms of the new leader of the Labour Party, the new Khalifa.
For some.
No, we can also talk about what's been happening, the developments in Russia, in Syria, with Russia and other countries getting involved.
Okay, that's a very important
There's a lot
as well.
we can talk about.
Yeah, there's actually quite a lot of things developments that have been happening, and especially over the past month or two. Even the whole racist outrages that we've been seeing videos emerging on YouTube on an alarmingly high rate or frequency that we're seeing.
Today, I read again another about a sister who got abused on the train today.
That's right. Yeah. So we can cover some of those things because those are what should be concerning all of us today. Those kinds of stories and those agendas should be in the forefront of our mind. Alternatively, we could talk about what everybody else is talking about, which is extremism, condemning terrorism, and how we should be good citizens of the state. But this is the Security Council, and we are the voice of reason. We are the breath of fresh air in the dank and suffocating room called Islamophobia culture. Okay, so anything you want to add there, Mr. Robert, Mr. Beast?
No, I think let's get into it. We don't have much time.
Okay, I'll let you take the floor with the first agenda then.
So, alhamdulillah, we heard the great news that finally after was it 10 years? I forgot.
14 years,
14
isn't it?
years, yeah?
Yeah, I think 14 years, bro.
Subhanallah. The release of brother
Shaker
Aamer.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. And, it's actually a great news. I mean, he's been cleared for release so many times, 6 times if I'm correct in that figure.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And never convicted of any offence. That's, I think, the underlying point here.
That, and also the fact that kept illegally in a torture chamber called Guantanamo Bay.
That's right. And, of course, tortured.
Yeah.
Repeatedly.
And by the sounds of things,
while the British knew and we were present.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, by the sounds of things, the British were complicit in the British spy agencies were complicit in the torture and rendition of this British citizen.
So not only they were aware of this fact, but they probably played a role in either at best by not doing anything about it, or reporting it, or preventing it from happening, intervening where was necessary, or at worst by actually being part and parcel of the whole torture culture that became very much accepted by the US administration that was running Guantanamo Bay. We've heard repeatedly over the years that denials, especially from Barack Obama, unequivocally denying that they have a policy against torture. Okay, so it's just shocking to see people coming out from that prison. I mean, it's not new, to be honest with you. We've had other former inmates report torture,
and we still got over 100 people, 100 brothers still stuck there. Most of whom are cleared to leave, and they're still stuck out there. I mean, I've been reading today on the Independent, that the promise that Obama made of closing the prison comes with a separate set of plans that they are planning to open 7 other sites to take these Guantanamo Bay prisoners into. So it's not actually closing. Even the Obama is promising, and they're saying they're on track to close it and so forth. They're actually not closing it because they're opening up 7 other sites in three other states within USA this time, though.
Yeah.
To take these prisoners and to falsely imprison them, and God knows what else they're going to do.
Yeah. So I think people would be very naive and quite foolish if they were to believe, or to have ever believed, anyone's commitment or false promise into closing down Guantanamo Bay. We can see that that's actually not true at all. Rather, on the contrary, they are opening more.
I mean, this is the article on the Independent today that written by Carlisle Smith Jr. That Carlisle, I'm assuming, is a man. He's written that these are the plans that they've looked into now. Yeah,
I mean, this is actually a wider problem. The prison culture in America is a huge issue. All they ever end up doing, instead of looking at the root issues as to why people end up going to prison, they're just opening up prisons to begin with. But with Guantanamo Bay, we found, I think, according to the statistics, that the conviction rate is only 2% of the number of people that they've actually got inside Guantanamo being held captive. Only 2% of those people ever get convicted. So that's like, 98% of the people there who are entirely innocent or haven't been, charged with any conviction, sentenced or anything like that. So, and about the allegations of torture, this is nothing new. Brother Shaker Aamer is not the first to be speaking about this, okay? Although his voice is probably now, mashallah, the most prominent in this field. Brothers like Binyam Muhammad and even Brother Muazzam Beg and others who were in Guantanamo had to come back, openly implicating even the UK spy agencies in their role at the torture that was going on inside Guantanamo Bay. We're going to be going quickly to a short clip that Brother Muazzam himself, he was being interviewed.
Newsnight,
and I think on
Newsnight.
Newsnight. Many of you may have heard this. If you haven't, this is an excellent piece.
It was last weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, last weekend. And I think there's an advisor to the US administration who's present there, and he also gives his view. And you'll actually hear what Robert the Beast just mentioned about opening more sites, or at least being committed to keeping Guantanamo open. You'll hear that sentiment coming from the pro-American voice. Shall we go straight to that piece, Mr. Producer?
So was Guantanamo worth it? What has it achieved? Our two guests tonight both know it well, but have seen it from different sides. Here in the studio, Muazzam Beg, a former detainee incarcerated there for 2 years. And from Washington, David Rivkin, a former legal advisor to the White House. And thank you both very much for coming in. Muazzam Beg, you've been in touch with Shaker Aamer's family today. What kind of response have they had?
Of course, they've been overjoyed. They've also been apprehensive about what it means to reconnect with a father, with a husband. Of course, Shaker has not seen those children. The last time he saw them, they were babes in arms, and his youngest, Faris, he'd never met him until today. So what that means for Shaker is to be a father once again, to be a husband once again, to be a member of society once again, and to be able to walk out of the four corners of the cell that he used to be in unrestricted is something completely new for this man.
David Rivkin, 14 years and then no charge at all. Guantanamo seems pretty indefensible on a day like today, doesn't it?
On the contrary, the fact he's not been charged does not signify anything. He was held as an unlawful enemy combatant. He was held for a number of years while the conflict was still going on. It's quite common not to charge people in most circumstances, and despite all the insinuations to the contrary, he was held in extremely humane and comfortable conditions, frankly better conditions than most people in federal prisons. And if you assume for 1 second that really was not a charity worker, that he was an unlawful enemy combatant, which was plenty of evidence, then he belonged to an organization that committed unimaginable acts of brutality, killing innocent women and children, torturing people. So with all due respect, I'm not greatly moved by his desire to be reunited with his family. What about people who were killed, tortured, had their heads cut off?
You don't see him tonight, then, as an innocent man. Is that what you're saying?
Let's not try to relitigate on TV whether or not he is innocent or he's an unlawful enemy combatant.
What I'm trying to tell is quite crucial to this, isn't it? Because you're accusing him here of things that he may or may not have done. So in your mind, he is not an innocent man tonight. Is that right? No,
he is not an innocent man for a simple reason that we have two administrations, the Bush administration and the Obama administration, has been quite critical of the latter administration of Guantanamo. No, he's had multiple reviews of his record by objective, honorable military officers. Not a single review held that he was not an enemy combatant. And never
convicted. Let me just go to Muazzam Beg.
No, it's not a question of convicting him.
Well,
it's a question of looking at the record and concluding that there's sufficient factual evidence to establish he was an enemy combatant.
Well, a lot of people play by the rule of law in this circumstance, and I want to ask Muazzam Beg, when you got home, and now looking at Shaker's position within society, do you feel like an innocent man, or do you still you've heard this opinion here from an advocate of Guantanamo Bay. Do you feel that you are vindicated?
We're talking about countries here that advocate the rule of law. We're talking about countries that talk about habeas corpus, the right to the body, that either you're presented with the evidence against you and charged and prosecuted, or you're released. There cannot be this third type of situation that the gentleman here is trying to suggest. Even Obama has ordered the closure of Guantanamo. He's said because it's an indefensible place. People are being executed, dressed in orange suits in Iraq by ISIS, for example.
David Rifkin, it doesn't alarm you. It doesn't alarm you that with somewhat 800 held, there have been fewer than 2% convicted. That is not a concern for you.
For benefit of your viewers, in a military justice system, in a laws of war-driven system, which is very different from criminal justice system, it does not mean it's lacking in due process. In every single war in human history, people were held for years in prisoners of war camp. Most of them, vast majority, were not convicted after World War I and World War II. It's not a question of conviction. It's a question of was there sufficient evidence to conclude that he was an enemy combatant.
So you would keep it open, presumably, would you? Would you keep this camp open? Would you keep it going?
I would keep Guantanamo open, but it has nothing to do with your question. My point is this. This is an individual, give the benefit of a doubt to numerous reviews conducted by honorable military officers who looked objectively at the evidence, concluded he was a member of Al-Qaeda, which is a horrible organization that killed thousands of people.
By at least 6 U.S.
Not clear. That's a lie.
By at least 6
he was
agencies.
Not cleared.
Just let him finish.
He's been cleared by 2 consecutive U.S. governments.
No.
He has never been designated for trial, even by a military commission, which has the lowest standards.
You are
of
misleading.
Proof. And the process that exists there only exists on Guantanamo. If you look at the Uniform Code of Military Justice, any American advocate from the military has not been trained to use that process, and even that process, they were never charging Shaker Aamer. So I really don't know on what basis you're saying that he's guilty. He's not. He's been held in false detention. He's been kidnapped and renditioned and tortured. He's the victim of crimes.
I want to pick up on that point in terms of the interrogation, in terms of the torture. David Rifkin, are you convinced that British authorities supported U.S. authorities in what they were doing to inmates in Guantanamo?
I would be amazed. First of all, I have no factual knowledge of what transpired in any particular time, but I would be amazed based upon everything I know that anybody was mistreated in Guantanamo or anything that involved British officials. But let me just say one thing.
Wait, you're saying nobody was tortured? You're saying nobody was tortured in Guantanamo Bay?
Of course, nobody was tortured in Guantanamo Bay. Okay, there can be debates about what happened with CIA.
Have you completely missed the CIA Senate report on torture? Have you been living in a different world completely? Even the United States is admitting that torture took place. That Obama, why did he order the closure of Guantanamo? When he came into power, why did he say that I'm going to end torture? Because he accepted that torture existed. Waterboarding took place. These things did happen. The only place where they didn't happen was in your brain.
Waterboarding took place at Guantanamo.
So President Obama got this wrong, did he? President Obama misspoke or misunderstood? What do you think?
President Obama was referring to enhanced interrogation at so-called CIA black sites. That's a totally different issue what happened in Guantanamo. Nobody's alleged that there was any mistreatment in Guantanamo. But look,
nobody's alleged that. I think every single prisoner and American soldiers who served there, and including some prosecutors, American prosecutors like Matt Diaz, who resigned from the military commission's process, said that torture was taking place. You had
in Guantanamo. That is total rubbish.
You had Captain James Yee who said that torture was taking place. You've got numerous people who served in Guantanamo who said torture took place.
What do you think Guantanamo achieved, David Rifkin?
Guantanamo has been harshly criticized and we paid a price for it. I understand that. But Guantanamo symbolizes that this is a real war against an implacable enemy, which if we do not win, is going to cost us dearly. This is not a criminal justice exercise. And I'm afraid that a vast majority of our European friends...
Somebody shut this guy up, please. I mean, is there any wonder why the world is in the state that it is in, when the superpower is being advised by douchebags like this guy, who's brazenly lying to everyone? I mean, don't they have any self-respect? Don't you even at least have some self-decency to say, look, there are lies and then there are damn lies. Okay, so these ones, I mean, even the host, the lady who's there, she was
shocked.
She was, outraged. Like, so you're saying even Obama got it wrong? That there was also, Obama was talking about torture in black sites. So what's Guantanamo Bay then? If it's not a black site, okay,
must be white. No, it's orange.
He said. Captain James Yee, people who served in Guantanamo have reported. The CIA Senate report on torture admits and acknowledges that torture did take place. I mean, we even had a BBC documentary recently on which we all watched on the iPlayer, where the presenter, the journalist, had to actually undergo some of those torture techniques that were being used out there in Guantanamo Bay. And, senior officials from the administration of the government of America were actually asked, about these torture techniques and whether they actually yielded any results. So I was just shocked to see this guy so boldly and brazenly lie through his teeth without even, with a poker face. As though it was the truth. And he reminded me of those Israeli foreign correspondents, Mark Regev and others who whitewash the bloodshed that they.
If you repeat a lie enough times, you'll actually convince yourself it's the truth. And this is exactly where they are. They repeated this lie for 14 years, and they've versed it so much that it's now embedded in their heads and hearts.
Mm-hmm. Very true, bro. Very true. So quite a sad video, but I have to say, Brother Muazzam smacked him down. Literally, he got schooled on this on this issue. And
in his brain.
What did he say? The only place that torture did not take place is inside your brain. Well, I mean, what planet have you been living on? Literally,
here comes John Cena.
The SmackDown's Dwayne Johnson. It is.
Who's Dwayne Johnson?
Exactly. I mean, who is that guy? Anyways, so this was a eye-opening.
Django's hero,
childhood hero, gentlemen. Childhood hero.
You're not that young, mate.
So, just looking at this really serious issue, and seeing how people who are very influential in powerful places, who are legal advisors to governments. It's no wonder the American government has been parroting this very same narrative. It's because this is what the legal advisors have been telling them to say. That just go out there and openly lie and just deny it, basically. And say nobody's alleged. I mean, he repeatedly said no one has alleged that there was... Every inmate in Guantanamo has been saying that they've been, abused and...
those are inmates. What about the citation of former captains?
That's right.
And
guards and prosecutors?
Even the CIA themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Their report clearly says that there's been torture.
That's right. They tried to euphemize it by using a term to describe it in a trivial way.
Waterboarding.
Or to say that. Enhanced interrogation technique. They call
stress
also
positions
or rendition and
stress position. It sounds like some kind of
waterboarding is effectively yoga. Drowning somebody, forced drowning. That's what it is. They call it simulated drowning, but it's forced drowning.
That sounds like some kind of sport.
Exactly.
And
snowboarding.
Snowboarding, yeah. And then you got the what's it called, stress position. That's enhanced yoga. So it's ridiculous.
So we want to just say again in summary that alhamdulillah. Not only Middle Path Radio, but I think every single Muslim, and in fact, pretty much a huge number of non-Muslims, I would go as far as to say that even the Daily Fail would like to welcome back our brother Shaker Aamer back to the UK.
Ounce of humanity has actually welcomed this decision, and he's welcomed him back.
Well, that obviously eliminates the Daily Mail from that.
They jump on whatever.
They don't have an ounce of humanity.
Yeah, but they jump on whatever the public wants, isn't it?
That's right. Whatever's popular, whatever's trendy, whatever makes the money, brings in the ratings.
Exactly.
Increases the the membership and the subscribes and so on and so forth.
Continues to fuel hate and support.
So and I hope in the future we can get Brother Shaker Aamer on the show and maybe discuss a few things if he wants to and so forth.
And we shouldn't forget, Robert, that as you said, he's not the last of the inmates.
Absolutely.
And in fact, there's one particular inmate who has family in the UK his own individual nationality may not be British, but he has family in the UK, like immediate family who are British, and they are waiting for his return. And what does it matter if you're British or not British? I mean, since when did we become like those who consider Palestinian blood to be cheaper than British blood simply because they're not British? Do you see? So we have to be humanitarian here.
Yeah. These are not less of a human just because they weren't born or aren't classed.
They're not less significant.
Exactly.
Because they're not English, because they're not white, or because they're not from the UK, or they don't have citizenship here. You know, there are people who are forgotten, okay, and out of sight and out of mind. We should all pray for them. Definitely.
Justice is not just for the British.
Make their release easy, inshallah, and quick.
I'm saying justice is not just for the British or for the English or for the white or for the Muslims. It's for everybody.
We should never rest until Guantanamo is closed and those who were responsible for the crimes therein are brought to justice.
Absolutely.
That's why they should feel the full force of the law.
That reminds me that there's another topic I talked about is Tony Blair's apology.
There are just so many cans of worms that we can really, crack open, and we have already, I think, exceeded our time. So we're gonna have to quickly go to a quick break. Is it all right to go to a break, Mr. Producer? While we do, a quick reminder for you, brothers and sisters, that we'll be coming shortly back, and we'll be talking about 2 other issues, and probably a couple more we'll touch on as well. Adam Dean, we cannot forget the whole scandal that is the defection of Adam Dean.
Can I just suggest, because we're tight for time, we keep Adam Dean as our...
Right to the end, is it?
No,
priority.
As a priority. We're going to go straight into Adam Dean as soon as we come back from the break. Mr. Producer, it's on your cue.
You're listening to The Security Council, a zero-bull, straight-talking, current affairs program.
That's right, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to The Security Council.
It's monkey time.
That's right. This is supposed to be a zero whatever. I don't know who wrote that intro, Mr. Producer. I'm looking at you. Okay, so Desmond Two Guns, monkey time. I see. We're talking about any particular individual you have in mind?
Yeah, so, I think you mentioned before the break. You wanted to talk about Adam Dean.
That's right.
Joining his friend,
Dr. Osama
Monkey Magic
Hassan. That's
right.
A pretty good WWE name, I think. Dr. Osama Monkey Magic Hassan. All right, it's pretty cool.
Here comes the Monkey Man.
We need to think of names for his special moves and signature slams.
The Monkey Elbow.
The Monkey Slam. Stuff. There's some not safe for work ideas cropping into my head. But Adam Dean,
and this comes on the back of about roughly a year ago, was it, when Adam Dean on his on Twitter, where he talked about how his response to the puritanical Muslims who who says
you need to say it.
Sorry, puritanical.
That's right.
Response to those who say, "When am I going to join Quilliam Foundation?" And what was his answer? You idiots.
Yeah.
Something along that line.
You think I'm going to join the Quilliam Foundation,
Lo and behold, less than a year later,
he has actually, in fact, joined the Quilliam Foundation. Guess who's the idiot now? So, and this was a term, puritanical, was it Muslim? Just puritanical Muslim?
Yeah, puritanical Muslim.
This is a term that he's been using, actually, quite a lot. He's trying to bring it into some form of popularity, like Ed Hussein and others did with the word Islamism. And he actually used it, I believe, in one of the, was it a Panorama or a Dispatches program, where he sided with some of the well-known Islamophobic journalists who have it.
John Ware, wasn't it?
John Ware, that's right. And he was naming individuals in the Muslim community, in fact scholars to be precise, and pointing them out, first describing them as puritanical Muslims, but also presenting this theory of theirs, not his alone, but it's a theory of the Islamophobes, that they package it in this way to say that terrorism comes off of what is known as their conveyor belt theory, that it is these scholars, these imams, these clerics, these words, they try to use some of these medieval, inferences to try and make it look more draconian and backward and barbaric, and all that monstrosity. So the point is simply that, it's actually the scholars, the imams, the teachers, the clerics, they're the ones who are creating terrorists. And of course, conveyor belt also implies mass production and drone kind of, clone system. So it's these mosques and it's these madrasas that are, as they like to refer to them, that are creating Muslim clones who are all puritanical at nature, but Wahhabist, and all using these types of discredited terms, undefined and pretty much condemned by pretty much all Muslims across the globe.
So who is Adam Deen? Sorry, I don't really know much about him.
I personally actually don't know him neither. I'll be honest with you. My only experience of Adam Deen was seeing him speak
on TV?
On Sunday. Yeah, on TV, on the big questions. And I have to say, he did a pretty bad job at that as well. In fact, his wife does an even better job than him, and more power to her. But apart from that, I've not really... he was like another Mo Ansar character to me, another... just a self-proclaimed, speaker of the Muslim community.
Mo Ansar is actually backing him now. He's actually blaming the Muslim community for Adam Deen for going into Quilliam.
That's right. So, obviously, birds of a feather flock together, and that's exactly what's happened with Adam Deen, Mo Ansar, and others, and even people like look at Quilliam Foundation. Quilliam Foundation associates themselves with people like Tommy Robinson's. They're leaders and mouthpieces of the racist movement in the UK, the new racist movement.
Quilliam Foundation associates itself with
Nazi face of the UK.
What, strip clubs and alcohol and what else?
That's right. Yeah. And they associate themselves with well-known bigots like Sam Harris from the United States, Douglas Murray from the Henry Jackson Society in the UK, and even self-declared apostates like Mariam Namazi and Taslima Nasreen and others.
I think they fell out, isn't it, recently?
Yeah, Mariam Nawaz. Nawaz, what?
Possibly.
Majid Nawaz, Mariam Namaz. That's going to be a difficult one for me to get my head around. Am I onto something here, guys? We should send out Cluzo to investigate.
Not on radio.
Okay, so yes, so Mariam Namazi has been butting heads now with Majid Nawaz. Actually, she did this when she first met him. I think only about, again, another year or so ago. She met him at a conference.
Met who? Dean?
Majid Nawaz, the face of Quilliam Foundation, as it were. I think Haras Rafiq is actually the chair, I think. If I'm wrong, do correct me, brothers and sisters. Nobody really gives a damn. But Majid Nawaz, Mariam Namazi met Majid, and they took a selfie and posted it on Twitter. And Mariam was saying that, I'm glad to be joined by other apostate Muslims, ex-Muslims like Majid Nawaz, or something to that effect. That's not verbatim word for word. And obviously this was like, ding, 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 ding. Everybody was saying like, hello, this is the coming out. He came, everybody now knows because
came out of the closet.
That's right. He is a non-Muslim, basically, according to even his associates and accomplices. So when people took to Twitter and started saying, there you go, here's the proof, people, that Majid Nawaz is not a Muslim. We always knew it. We never got the public confirmation of that. And here, thank you, Mariam, for confirming that for all of us. So obviously, Majid's always tried to present himself as a Muslim speaker without ever actually saying, I am a Muslim. In fact, he did come back at Mariam Namazi, or Bear Namazi, as many have called her. Yeah, so that Majid actually asked her quite strongly that Mariam, you need to delete that tweet because I still choose to associate with Islam. He couldn't bring himself to say, I am still a Muslim. Nope, he had to say it in this way, I still choose to associate
basically
with
means that I'm getting
Islam.
paid And if I don't still have this association,
That's right.
then I'll lose my money.
That's right, and the credibility. This is, unfortunately, some Muslims still today are duped into thinking that this is a Muslim organization, Muslim-led, it has Islamic ethos and so on. Unbelievable. Simply because they use the name of a very decent person.
What kind of ethos
Abdullah
is that?
Quilliam.
Is that we go drinking in a strip club during Ramadan?
Yeah, that's the kind of ideal British values that the Quilliam Foundation is trying to promote with the help of our Prime Minister David Cameron. Okay, who's also very much into pigs in a way that we do not need to go into on this program.
Saying that, there was a very interesting nursery rhyme I heard the other day in a protest.
Yeah, I heard that as well. I think we should leave that out.
What time is the watershed? Exactly.
10, if I remember.
I think it was 9.
We could have had a very merry song on this program, but we leave David Cameron to put that in his autobiography after he falls on his sword, just like Tony will do very shortly. So let us quickly continue. So Adam Dean,
a supposed ex-Al-Muhajirun.
Yes, people tell me that he was kind of a decent bloke back in the day. He was, debating with non-Muslims about how Islam is the truth. But over the years, he became more and more influenced by, philosophy, and he got diverted. And anyway, in the end, he started
extremist, basically.
He became the other type of extremist.
This is extremism.
That's absolutely right. So, and he of course, I think it all came to a head when he did that documentary with John Ware. And it became clear that he was contributing to the Islamophobia industry, and he was hand in glove, so to speak, with the Prevent agenda in cracking down on mosques, imams, university lecturers. Muslim speakers through Islamic societies and so on. So he was hand in glove with the government narrative on that, and that's where we finally drew the line. We thought, what, you are Quilliam Foundation all but in name. And we've got a tweet here that we want to refer to from brother Raza Nadim of MPAC. He says, Adam Dean used to be part of MPAC UK for a while, but was kicked out for being a grade A egotistical TOSSER. Okay, so we redact that. Robert the Beast Mugabe has no objection in using that expression on air. Quilliam Foundation tweets saying, are you a Muslim in the UK looking for a new job for about £100,000? Willing to lose all credibility and respect in the community? Join Quilliam today. They're trying to be sarcastic, but if you look at the Freedom of Information requests into their income and expenditures, they are operating on hundreds of thousands of government taxpayers' money. And what good have they done? I think one of the main success stories that Majid Nawaz often bandies about is Tommy Robinson, who, as Robert was alluding to earlier, Mariam Namazi once again came up and said, look, are you sure this Adam Dean has actually changed? Because you did say that about Tommy Robinson, and we know he hasn't changed one bit. And this is,
he just
Mariam Namazi is literally, they're like twin brother and sister, Majid Nawaz and Mariam Namazi. Surely there is a reason why their names sound so similar.
Probably incestuous.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't catch that part. But what
best for you too.
But what I'm saying is, it took for Mariam Namazi to ask this question, and I would have rather hoped that Mariam was correct, but it does look like actually he has changed. Unlike Tommy Robinson, where we would have hoped that he did change, Tommy Robinson hasn't changed one bit. Producer is pushing more tweets at me. Adam Dean himself has tweeted, I believe. What's the puritanical Muslim response against my charges? Okay, this is the one that we were talking about a year ago. He asks, what's the puritanical Muslim response against my charges? Quote, when are you joining Quilliam, Adam? End quote. Nice try, idiots. Basically, he was trying to distance himself from Quilliam Foundation, of course. And as we're saying, here we are today. You are very much now a QF, fan, cheerleader.
Sounds like almost like a swear word, doesn't it? QF.
Yeah. So that's Adam Dean. And I have to say, I'm not surprised one bit to see an individual like him lose credibility. And I don't really know why he did this. Actually, I do know. I think
that's
everybody
pretty
knows.
obvious the way he done it, isn't it?
Look,
I think his bank
hold on a minute,
balances
hold
might have been a bit low, possibly in the red, mortgage maybe not getting
I
paid.
know, what's his name? Dilly Hussein of Five Pillars has been stating that was the case, and he's been even referring to emails that he's seen through his sources, indicating that Adam Dean was quite desperate for money. He not because he needed money, but he just wanted money. He wanted funding. He wanted to, and also fame as well. I mean, you heard what's his name said. Razan Nadim said about from Impact. He was kicked out because he was very egotistical. These are people who are careerists. They are opportunists, and that is exactly what Majid Nawaz became a grade A. Sellout. That's what they are. Careerists. They're making a brand of themselves. They realized that the non-Muslim community are looking for Stephen from Django Unchained, and there's not many Stephens in our community.
I'd like to retract that statement. Sell out. To really sell out, you need to sell something. Yeah, I don't know what he sold out, because all he's coming out with is lies, really.
And the reason why it has to be money, Robert, Mr. Mugabe, is that any Muslim today who joins Quilliam Foundation must know that in doing so, it's like political suicide. You've lost all credibility as soon as you've done that. So why would you do something like that?
Because he
can only be motivated by financial gain and
plus, if you
fame.
analyze it, he wasn't really credible anyway. So he didn't really lose much in that sense.
So it was a very terrible first day for Mr. Adam Dean. John Sargent here on his Twitter account is saying, my interview, Adam Dean joins the Quilliam Foundation. So there's some stories going around on WordPress as well. So you can go and read up about that. We have to wrap up our program. And in order to do so, we did say we were going to actually mention one paragraph from an excellent article. Allow me, brothers and sisters, to just read, and there will be hopefully no need to elaborate, because these people know what they're talking about better than I could anyway, for sure, no question. So this is again an article, a piece on Islam 21C. It's called Islamophobia is Racism. It's a little bit lengthy, but I've just taken one paragraph here. All right, so bear in mind that it may be a little bit out of context, but it has some very valuable points. It says, open quotes, "It's important to highlight what is meant by white, in inverted commas. Since race is a social construction, whiteness is too. For instance, someone can be considered black in the UK, brown in Puerto Rico, but white in Brazil. This is because whiteness is about those who pass as normal and hold positions of power in society. Unlike people of color, they are not subject to political solutions because of their whiteness. This is precisely the reason why those who have been considered white have historically varied. Whiteness has never been a static definition. The Irish, for instance, were once considered as non-white and were actually called the N-word upon their migration to the US. What this demonstrates is that whiteness is not only about skin color. This is the point. What this demonstrates is that whiteness is not only about skin color, but about power. This is also the reason why Greek immigrants in the UK are considered as non-white, but in Greece considered to be white. This process of being categorized racially is called racialization. There are many who find talking about race and racism problematic. Okay? And they often state that they do not see hair or skin color, or that they do not care about culture and religion, but they only see the human. This is unfortunately a lie. And he goes on to define racism. He says, racism is the stratification of people based on their race, religion, culture, or ethnicity, where the reference group, i.e. the white, hold institutions of power. It is this group which reproduce unequal structures in society, both consciously and unconsciously. Thus, racism is not merely hate, as many people define it as. Rather, racism is not racism without the aspect of power. The basic definition of racism can be summarized in the following equation. Racism equals racial prejudice plus misuse of power by institutions and systems. I should leave it at that because he goes into further detail with excellent examples here. Again, refer to the author, who is the brother who wrote the piece. His name is Amanj Aziz. He's got a bachelor's in political science and is an anti-racism activist in Sweden. He's currently undergoing a master's in sociology with a special focus on post-colonial and critical race studies at the University of Gothenburg in Sweden. So this is his area.
What's the article called, and what website?
Again, Islam 21C, brothers and sisters. It's called Islamophobia is Racism. And why is this article necessary? Islamophobia is racism because the leaders of racism today here in the UK or abroad in Europe, the very leaders and champions of racism are claiming to not be racist, simply on the basis that Islam is not a skin color. They've narrowed down the definition of what racism actually is to eliminate Islam, Muslims and many other people out of the equation. As we know today, there are many Brits, white people here in the UK who are racist against other white people who are coming in from Europe, but they do not consider them to be white. So therefore, racism is not simply about skin color. It encompasses religion, culture, values, and simply a complete way of life. But it also utilizes power structure and institutionalism to actually implement those racist policies.
Mr. Producer, can we tweet that article on to
Again, Islam 21C, brothers and sisters. Islamophobia is racism. Those of you academic, studious people out there, you should definitely read this. And we need to formulate our narrative, make it more concise, and be ready to say that Islamophobia is part and parcel racism. It is like for like.
Absolutely.
Jazakumullah khair. Robert the Beast, do you want to add any other points? I know you had some agendas that you also wanted to discuss today.
White power.
White power. How about you, Desmond Two Guns? Go say that in Zimbabwe. Wouldn't go down too well, I'm sure, because the power structure in that country is in the hands of the black people. Okay?
Therefore, they're racist.
You mean the indigenous people?
The indigenous, the original people, yes. But that would be opening up another can of worms. I'm sure would be very interesting to get stuck into. But anyway, Desmond Two Guns, what have you got to bring to the table?
Sorry, just before you go on, I was going to actually
Desmond, come on, Robert.
I was going to actually
this isn't Zimbabwe. This is the...
Go after the farmers.
Now, to be on a serious note, I was going to actually just mention very briefly. I know that we don't have time and we can't express it, correctly in this short amount of time. But nevertheless, I think it's important to mention. Nevertheless, it's important to mention what's been happening in the last month or two in Palestine, in the West Bank and Gaza, specifically in Jerusalem as well, in terms of the murder, torture of innocent young Palestinians. In the hands of the Israeli settlers and soldiers. Even the settlers, they're endorsed by the government and the soldiers. So I think it's important that if you don't know about it, which I'll be really surprised if you don't, do read up on what's been happening there.
Not from the BBC.
not from so-called mainstream media, because they are blocking the true news from coming into light. So do read about it. Look at different people, especially if you can go onto the Twitter accounts of the Palestinians and read some of their blogs and their tweets, and you'll find out what's been happening there. And some of the reporters who are based in those kind of areas, you'll find out what's been happening there and make dua for them.
Actually, on Twitter, some journalists who work for mainstream media, when they're on Twitter, they actually tweet on their personal capacity, so they're no longer working for their mainstream media. They're actually able to say a lot more than they're normally allowed to say on the channels that they work for. So you do get oftentimes material and some more facts coming directly from those.
It opens up something else on the side of what we're talking about. I mean, it makes you think, why are the mainstream media censoring important news? Like what's been happening there.
In this country, the truth is under stranglehold by the corporations.
It's not just in this country. It's practically
it's
around
international policy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all across the world. The honourable mentions from other issues before we go to Django of the Week. The honourable mentions, I think we wanted to talk about Tony Blair, Chill Court inquiry, his apology. He did make an apology. It was some form of a half-hearted apology. And there were other issues. We were going to talk about the Russian plane over Sinai. And the issues about that. We didn't even come to Syria and the Russian involvement in Syria, and some in fact those who are claiming responsibility are saying that it's for the Russian involvement in Syria, the bombings and the bloodshed that Russia's now gotten involved with, siding with his boy Assad. We also wanted to talk about, maybe we could have talked about a number of things like the
shift
a new revelation that we want to talk about Corbyn as well, of course.
Corbyn, and also Jeremy, I can't even say his surname, the Canadian
I don't know much about the Canadian guy.
Again, another shift to the left.
Too many jazzes, man.
There was one other story also that it's been revealed that it was the UAE that's been pressuring the UK government to clamp down on the Muslim Brotherhood. No surprises there, of course. And they were saying that if they did, the UK government didn't do that to the Muslim Brotherhood, that they would pull out their arms deals, basically. Yeah, the UK would lose out on money. You see, money talks.
Just
people.
like that very interesting interview
Not
with
your votes.
David Cameron about his relationship with Saudi Arabia and how he will support them in their human rights. Bid to be human rights, part of the Human Rights Council or something.
What, David Cameron, who's also campaigning to pull out of the human rights agreements in Europe.
Well, same Cameron? Are we talking about the same Cameron?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The piggy Cameron or the or another Cameron?
There's only one Cameron we know. They're oink.
Careful. Careful. If he's listening in, might get excited there.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, Django of the Week, brothers and sisters.
I think since that last show, there's been too many Djangos which you've missed out on.
Yeah.
And I think over
this
the course
show,
of
there's been one, glowing beacon of Djangoism that has really outshined everybody else.
The self-proclaimed idiot himself.
That's right. He prophesized his idiocy 1 year in advance. It can only be one man, the man of many names and mysterious backgrounds.
Adam Badin.
Mr. Adam Badin. Okay, so there you go. I think, I don't know, Mr. Producer, you have the final say. Everybody thinks good luck Django Jonathan's, kind of, anchoring the show, but the producer has the final word.
That cowboy hat, who can't?
Crocodile boots.
Adam Badin. We're going with Mr. Adam Badin. We're not. We are, of course, joking, brothers, just by not insinuating anything more than that. So
I don't know. What
Django of the Week goes to Mr. Adam Dean, and I think next week we'll be covering.
You didn't make it official.
What's that?
Mr. Adam Badin, you are
Django of the Week. That's right. So next week, I'm sure we'll have somebody else, because there's so many people clamoring to be Django of the Week. It's a huge popularity contest amongst fools and disgraces in the human race. Without any further delay.
Sorry, just before you end, we're back on this show regular now, yeah?
Yep. Saturday nights. Are we still okay for 8 p.m., Mr. Producer? Yeah? We're going to be doing this show every Saturday night at 8 p.m. And if there are any changes, of course, we'll give you guys plenty of heads up, inshallah. Mr. Beast, the floor is yours.
No, so we're going to end it here, inshallah. So in terms of the YouTube, do subscribe to it, send it to your friends, let them listen to and catch up with the show.
We are also now on Mixlr.
Oh yeah, we are.
I know many of you are listening to Mixlr for other content, excellent content from, say, the East London Mosque. So if you've got Mixlr already installed on your smartphone, brothers and sisters, Android or iOS, okay, you can now listen to us on Mixlr. Okay?
Going out with a bang.
Oh yeah.
we give it out to our boys in the background, fighting the rebels and the explosives in the background. I don't. Anyways, we see you guys next week, inshallah. Without any further ado, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Middle Path Radio, your #1 online Islamic talk station.